I would go spin up the same environment or the same setup in a sandbox, play around with it, see what changes I can make, and then it's like I mentioned before, putting my theory into test and understanding what changes or how much can we change or what can be done or is it even viable. Once that's done, you document those experiment outputs, right? Your POC outputs. It's like a proof of concept that you can always put forward because you have more. It's like being like a scientist. You have all the data with you. Next, you go and you don't take it and go, hey, this is what I did and this is the savings. It's more like I'm trying to understand the other person's perspective, right? Talk to engineering, understand why a certain, architecture was provided or why that particular service was spun up in a certain way. What was the business requirement? Once you have that input, then you go and have a discussion with the business and then see what their perspective was. Because sometimes what happens is, like I said, people are racing against deadline and then they put something in place. And then now they might be open to modernizing those services or bringing down those services to a level where your performance is fine, but you're also saving money because whatever savings they do, they can use it in their future projects, right? It's like you have budgets for doing more things or budgets for all your applications that are on hold. So you're freeing some money and some resources for it. So test it at a lower environment, convince them and work with your business, engineering, SRE, and then try to change in the lower environment and see if it's impacting in a non-prod environment. If not, then, you move ahead with making those changes in production environment for one application in one particular business unit. So once that goes in place, people have confidence now, right? Like initially you were like just looking at the numbers and they were just looking at what you have done. Now they're seeing it on the ground, like at the ground level, like, yes, this works for my application in a lower environment. So now they're confident enough to make those changes in production environment. And once it goes into production environment, now you have this one particular application, one particular business unit. Now you can expand it at an enterprise level, right? You can have 3, 4 other business units or using similar services to make those changes. And then once that goes in place, then the next step is you've done detection, you've stopped the bleeding. The next step is prevention. Have guardrails set in place, have like config to see if there is one-offs, right? And once there is, you immediately get alerted and go back and make those changes. It's like a cycle. You start, you detect, you prevent, and then you have governance. But that doesn't mean you're done with that service. You have to go back and again visit the same service sometime in the future. Because like I said, new services come in, new versions come in, better optimized, all these service providers come up with better optimized chips, better optimized, next version. So, are you like lagging in your versions? Can you upgrade them to a newer version? So, for example, Glue, right? Glue 3.0 has auto scaling, but prior to that, they didn't have auto scaling. So people had to guess the number for their jobs. But now, because you have auto scaling, if you implement those, right, you're saving money. But at the same time, your performance may not have an impact.